Okay.
All right. Perfect. Okay, so hello everybody. If you don't know who I am, I think you all know me. My name is Sydney. To get started, so raise your hand if you have ever said something to somebody and they couldn't forgive you. Now raise your hand if you have been told something and you couldn't forgive that person. Okay. Now, has anybody ever met somebody and they just wanted to be friends. They didn't want to end up liking somebody. They just wanted to be friends and hang out, you know? Yeah? Same. So, I've been there, and how often do those little moments tend to work for us? That oh yeah, we're just going to be friends. They don't work very often, do they? So here's the thing. We can't control everything, and that's what this message is about. It's impossible. We can't predict and plan, but ultimately the Lord is our guide, and we have to see where we go. So Jonah is a short book in the Bible with only 4 chapters, but it has a huge lesson to be learned. Just raise your hand if you're familiar with that chapter. Okay, good. So I'm going to do a slight retelling of it if you don't know what it is. So the Lord sent Jonah to deliver a message to Nineveh, for he had seen how wicked its people were. But Jonah went in the opposite direction. He tried to run from his obligations and to control the outcome of the city because he feared the Lord's wrath on them. He took a boat, though it doesn't matter where because the Lord had created a powerful wind and stormy seas for this boat to cross. Jonah's companions on the boat begged him to make amends with his Lord so that they may all live rather than die. But Jonah did not. Instead, he was picked up by the sailors and thrown overboard to be eaten by a giant fish. Fearing his death, Jonah prayed for a second chance because the ocean had swallowed him and he was scared. So Jesus heard him and ordered the fish to spit him out on the beach. He once more ordered Jonah to the city of Nineveh to deliver the message. This time, Jonah delivered the message. They dressed in garments of mourning and burlap sacks, and even the king dressed and sat on ashes. They all prayed earnestly to God and turned away from evil doing. Our Lord, being the gracious God that he is, saw what they were doing, turning from their evil ways, and decided not to carry out his punishment for Nineveh and its people. Jonah saw this and became very angry. He couldn't understand why his Lord had spared them but had come after him for not delivering the message when he is a merciful God. He felt like our Lord was just being a hypocrite and trying to scare him, so he said he would rather die than live like that. To which the Lord replied, "Is it right for you to be angry about this?" That is Jonah 4:4. Was it right for Jonah to be angry about this? The fact that he couldn't control it? So Jonah made himself a shelter in the east side of the city, and the Lord arranged a leafy plant to shade him. The next day, he also arranged a worm to eat through the stem, killing the plant. Jonah 4:8-11 says, "And as the sun grew hot, God arranged for a scorching east wind to blow on Jonah. The sun beat down on his head until he grew faint and wished to die. 'Death is certainly better than living like this,' he exclaimed. Then God said to Jonah, 'Is it right for you to be angry because the plant died?' 'Yes,' Jonah retorted, 'even angry enough to die.' Then the Lord said, 'You feel sorry about the plant, though you did nothing to put it there. It came quickly and died quickly.' But Nineveh was more than 120,000 people living in spiritual darkness, not to mention all the animals. Shouldn't I feel sorry for such a great city?" We conclude the chapter in the book with those lines. The Lord was teaching Jonah how to accept that it's not in his control to determine the fate of the entire city. So, the fish or the message he had to bring, he couldn't control it. The scorching heat, the blistering wind, the plant's deaths. And all he could do was control how he reacted to each and every situation that the Lord put him in, right? So many of us pray for wisdom, so God gives us problems to solve. Many of us pray for patience, so he gives you opportunities to be patient. Others pray for answers, so he asks questions. You can pray for courage or bravery, and he's just going to give you times to choose those, opportunities to exhibit those. Recently, I've experienced some dramatic changes in my life that I have had no say in. And I have also prayed for wisdom for years. Patience is another one that was asked for, but I didn't feel wise. I didn't feel patient. I felt like my patience was constantly thin and that I was constantly getting angry. I felt like I was constantly asking questions that I had no answers for and no way to answer. So it felt like I was drowning in my own sorrows and worries, that I was drowning in my anxieties and what I couldn't control. And I felt really lonely and really sad because I wasn't leaning on the Lord and I wasn't leaning on any of my community. But luckily, someone very special to me walked into my life and has given me those opportunities for patience and wisdom. Some of you may know who I'm talking about, and some of you don't, but that's okay. But for this person, I'm eternally grateful because he showed me how to have fun again, how to work through those issues that I couldn't see or that I wasn't wanting to acknowledge, but instead enjoy those as well as the fun times that we have while we're having those issues. So yes, this person did kind of end up being my good luck charm, but he was also called to a mission in Chicago for 2 years. He leaves in 2 weeks. And I have learned in being friends with this person that everything that has happened in my life that I just have to listen and go with the flow. I can't control the outcome of every single situation that I'm put in. I can control some, but I can't control it all. All I can really do is control my reaction to said situations. So I can't control his calling, but like I said, I can control my reaction to it rather than being sad or struggling with what am I going to do? This person has become a huge part of my life. I'm thinking, let's just enjoy the time, the 2 weeks left that we have to spend time together, to be friends, to get to know each other. So I am super happy for him, and I hope that he finds all the answers he's looking for. He's following his Lord. But this message goes out to all of you guys who wish you could control a certain situation or how someone reacted to something because it was never in your control.